My wife, Sherry, seemed to think I didn't notice her actions. Perhaps she thought I was too naive or too blind to understand, especially when it came to her increasingly close relationship with her coworker Todd. She was convinced that I would just sit back, accept her behavior, and let her deceive me while she continued her affair. She didn't realize that I had been suspicious for a long time. The first real shock came when I received a video that I will never be able to erase from my memory. It was of Sherry and Todd, and although the footage was not hidden, she was sitting on his face, holding onto his device with both hands and her mouth wide open. As proof, I left a link to the clip below the video. It was a vivid reminder of how deeply she was connected to him. I tried to brush it off, thinking that maybe it was some kind of mistake or that my mind was playing a cruel joke on me. But the changes in her behavior only confirmed my suspicions. She was constantly late from work, her wardrobe suddenly became more daring, and her attitude towards me changed more assertive, less attentive. And what's the worst part? The intimacy between us almost disappeared. It was like something was missing, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it had something to do with Todd. These changes did not go unnoticed by me. Our hobbies, the things that once connected us, disappeared. I felt like I was drifting away from what was once important to us. I tried to talk to her about it, but it was pointless. She dismissed my fears, saying that it was just my insecurity and possessiveness. Feeling stuck, I decided to hire a private investigator. From the very beginning of our relationship, I made it clear that infidelity was something I would never tolerate. During the 10 years of our marriage, Sherry had assured me of her fidelity over and over again. So as I sat in Jake Sloan's office and listened to the investigator's findings, I felt a strange mixture of relief and fear. Sloan confirmed that Sherry had not physically crossed the line yet. For a moment, I felt short-lived relief, but it didn't last. He went on to explain that although their relationship had not become physical, my wife had become emotionally attached to Todd. This was just as bad for me. An emotional affair was like an affair in every way. The report Sloan provided only deepened my fears. Sherry and Todd spent time together almost every day, openly showing affection, holding hands, sitting next to each other, and even hugging. Sloan took many photos of them in a close embrace, and in a few cases even exchanging kisses. When I looked at these photos, anger grew inside me. Not only were they constantly eating together, but they were also extending their working hours without any legal reason. It looked as if they were deliberately avoiding their spouses, claiming that they could be together every minute. The investigator went further, revealing that he had accessed Sherry's emails and messages. I knew that this was an illegal step and would not be valid in a divorce court, but the implications of what he had discovered were too glaring to ignore. Proving infidelity in a divorce is a difficult process, but a no-fault divorce does not require such proof. I wasn't looking for legal retribution. I just wanted to know the truth. Sloan did not give me copies of the messages and did not allow me to read them directly. Instead, he paraphrased them for me. He assured me that Sherry did not speak ill of me, even when Todd tried to humiliate me. She refused to participate in such conversations, which I guess was a small comfort. Their messages, however, revealed a deeply personal, almost intimate connection, although neither of them openly admitted to loving each other. Todd even sent Sherry pictures of his girlfriend, which she seemed to appreciate. As far as Sloan could tell, Sherry did not reciprocate, at least not yet. As I sat in Sloan's office trying to figure out my next move, he hit me with the worst news yet. Todd's wife was planning to head to her mother's house in the country for 3 days, giving Todd and Sherry the perfect opportunity to finally be alone together. The only thing standing in their way was me. They were unsure how to make it happen with me still around. Knowing that I had no intention of leaving town anytime soon, their plan seemed impossible. But they were already brainstorming ways to work around it. One idea was for Sherry to fake a girls' weekend, but she quickly nixed it, worried that one of her friends might accidentally blow her cover. Unwilling to drag anyone else into it, she abandoned that approach. Instead, they considered pushing me out of town. I bitterly recalled how Sherry had recently suggested a golf trip with my friends, a suggestion I had turned down because I had zero interest. In the end, they decided to go with a different tactic, one that relied on complete honesty. Todd was convinced that, over time, I'd become the kind of husband who would simply go along with their affair, just to keep Sherry as my wife. He convinced her that their relationship would somehow improve our marriage, even our intimacy. He assured her that all she had to do was let me know about their plans, and I would reluctantly accept it. Todd was clueless about who I really was. What shocked me the most was how easily Sherry fell for his manipulative schemes. She should have known I would never stand for this. If she didn't understand that, it only backed up what Sloane had said about her mental state. I hesitated, but I eventually agreed with his assessment. I left his office, asking him to keep monitoring Sherry's messages and let me know if anything came up. By Friday, Sloane called to tell me that Sherry was planning to talk to me on Monday after work. She intended to inform me that she was going on a date with Todd that Friday night. Their plans were already set. Dinner, dancing, and an overnight stay at a hotel, followed by Sherry's return to me by Saturday morning. Sherry and Todd had even rehearsed her speech, as if they were trying to convince themselves I would go along with it. They expected my first reaction to be anger and frustration, but Sherry was determined to reassure me that this was just a one-time thing, even though she knew full well it wasn't. To manipulate me further, she planned to present this betrayal as an opportunity for growth in our marriage. As some kind of twisted compensation, she intended to offer intimacy afterward, thinking that, after months of abstinence, I would be desperate enough to accept her pathetic attempt at making things right. The audacity of their plan sickened me. Sherry and Todd referred to this as an intervention, believing they had thought of everything. But I only had 48 hours to prepare for their so-called intervention, and I was determined it would not go the way they had imagined. Over the weekend, I went over every possible scenario in my head, trying to figure out if there was any way to salvage our marriage. At the same time, I wrestled with whether I even wanted to save it. Doubts clouded my mind as I thought about my feelings for Sherry and the life we had built together. In the early years of our marriage, Sherry and I had been inseparable. We shared everything: our passions, our experiences, our dreams. She wasn't just my wife. She was my closest companion and my most passionate lover. But over time, all of that seemed to disappear into nothingness. Maybe it was just the natural progression of life where nothing stays the same, or maybe my view of marriage had been too idealistic and traditional. I had always seen us as partners, facing life's challenges together, united in overcoming whatever came our way. Both of us had been through failed marriages before, which made me wonder whether the issue lay within us, or if it was the institution of marriage itself that was flawed. This was the reality I was facing. The betrayal wasn't just physical anymore. It had consumed everything between us. And Sherry, she was so deeply entangled in Todd's web that she couldn't see how far she'd fallen. I wasn't sure what I wanted anymore, but one thing was clear. I couldn't just let her walk all over me, and I had to figure out how to reclaim control of my own life.